Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Democracy 3 with CzarPeppers. Now, the last episode I did this was quite a while ago, so if you want to do a recap, you can look in the playlists and you'll find the playlist for this, which the first episode will be in. Now, some of the main problems we're having right now is we're having a doctor's strike at the moment, and it seems like the only thing that they really will help with that is decreasing funding to the state health service, and there is absolutely no way that I'm doing that. But it also seems like it's nearing its stop trigger pretty soon, so I think I'm going to leave that for a few turns. If it really becomes a problem, I might do something about it. But the other main thing that I want to look at is the rail strike, and I think we are to try and ease that. I am going to lower the rail subsidies slightly. The one thing I don't really get with this is the where's the strike? Rail employees are not turning up to work. They ask for greater investment to the rail system. So wouldn't it, and it says that if I raise it, it'll increase the rail strike, and if I decrease it, it'll decrease it. But what sense does that make? I mean, if you're decreasing their subsidies, then you'd think that they would be getting less money, which is the opposite of what they're trying to achieve. So I'm going to lower it slightly by like that, just to see if it has any kind of effect, because I'm not quite sure how it's going to work. So that's going to be 9 political points. Elsewhere, I do want to increase our... If we go into our polling, we are going up. We started off at... Down here, we're at 35% right now, but we still need to get a bit higher. So I'm looking at our polling numbers, and I think one of the sections that I would like to appeal to is parents, who we currently have a 33% rating for. Now, what do parents want? Obviously, legalized prostitution has a negative effect, so does narcotics and handgun laws. Doctor strike, obviously, and the asthma epidemic is no doubt the result, at least in part, by the doctor strike. What else exactly? The environment. Is there anything? Clean energy subsidies. I would like to renew. Yeah, does have some good effect. I do like the environmental effects. Capitalists don't like it, but you know what? They're just gonna have to suck it the hell up. My party isn't called the Socialist Party for no reason. We're not going to go crazy. Let's go. We were at 4 million. Let's go to 4 or 400 million. Let's go to 451 million to start. No, let's go to 470. It's only one political capital to raise that. Hopefully they'll have some positive effects on environments, which will thus help the asthma epidemic and hopefully increase our popularity with parents. Now we have 5 political capital left. What else? We also have a situation of organized crime. Also, another thing that parents were concerned about were the handgun laws. We have parents down here. Which way do they... Okay, decreasing it makes them not like it more. I would like to raise it to license required, but that requires a lot of political capital. So we're going to have to leave that for now. I'm sorry, all you American Second Amendment people. That's just my opinion. And this is Canada, after all. Now, another group that we could be doing better with is the trade unions. We currently have a lukewarm polling with them. So let's take a look. Unemployment is a factor to their dislike. Private healthcare and private schools. Private schools, of course, is dependent on the state of what are the state schools, right? We got modern textbooks. That's pretty reasonable. What are the other choice? Student laptops. I would like to raise it, but actually, I think I'm just going to go with the next turn because we only have 5 political capital. So we'll revert those changes and move on to our next quarter. All right, what's going on? Here's our summary. GDP is unfortunately going down. Health is still low. That's because of the doctors' strike. Education, good. Poverty around the middle. Crime, not too bad. Unemployment, not too bad. Of course, we have a credit down rating, unfortunately. Global economic forecast. We really do need to cut spending. Global economy looks like it's tanking. Income sort of holding steady while expenditures are going up. So I think we're going to have to deal. Let's just, first of all, let's look at our expenditure pie chart. We've got state health services. I'm starting to think maybe I'm not going to lower it much, but maybe lowering it just slightly might ease that pressure on the doctor's strike and also cut down on expenditures slightly. Debt interest, there's not much we can do about that. State pensions, I'd really rather not touch that. State schools, I rather not touch that either. Education, having a strong education in a country is a very important thing. Military spending is quite small, $7 billion. But I don't think if there's one thing that I'm thinking about cutting, I think it's going to be military spending. State housing, nope. Road building, I'm a Winnipegger, so maybe that's one of the things I'm going to cut. I'm used to roads that are complete crap. Child benefits, we definitely have science funding. I do not want to cut that. Alcohol abuse, that's costing us $2.5 billion. Technology grants. Playing this game really makes me begin to understand what it may be like to be a politician, because you're faced with these scenarios, and there's never a good solution. I mean, if you're in a situation, expenditures, pretty much everything on this list is fairly important. A tactic that I may try is lowering large amounts of these various expenditures slightly, and hopefully that might add up to enough to start beginning to balance the budget, or at least getting our debt decreasing rather than increasing. So, what's our income like? Income tax, yeah, it's obviously our most prominent income. Government borrowing, corporation tax. I think I've already raised that quite a bit, so I don't want to, otherwise I'm going to be assassinated by capitalists like I always am. Capital gains tax, I think 5.3%, that's not insanely high. Property tax, I don't really want to do anything with that, because that, middle class people have to deal with property tax just like the rich do. So petrol tax, I'll think about it. Tobacco tax. I'm personally not big on having a large, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but I find myself becoming more and more libertarian as I grow older, just with the belief that even if it may be bad for them, people should have the right to choose for themselves. I know this is generally something that's complained about by the right wing more than the left, but I'm not very fond of this whole notion of the nanny state. I think people should be free to choose what they want to do, whether it's positive or negative as long as they're not negatively affecting other people. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. So, but of course, this will also, I'm sure, cause problems with the health services. But let's say the income. If I lower it, tobacco usage will increase. Although it does, the one thing that this will help is probably help with poverty, because when you have, it's usually, I don't want to generalize, but in many cases, it's those who can't afford it who smoke. And if I decrease the tax on it, that may help in that regard, and hopefully sort of whittle away at unemployment and other things of that nature. So you know what? I think we are going to lower these tobacco tax to 15%. I think that is a reasonable change. Although that's going to cause problems for our expenditures, because how much is it right now? 1.3 billion quarterly. I'm going to lower it to 1 billion, or 22%. That's 1 billion quarterly. I know, maybe a risky move, may have not been the smartest, but now looking at our polling figures, there are two sections of the population that I would like to appeal to improve our polling with. One being the retired, and the second being youth, both on the opposite extremes of the spectrum, I guess. We're doing very well with socialists, obviously. State employment, not too bad, 40%. Liberals were doing pretty well. Motorists were doing pretty well, although I was going to cut road spending, wasn't I? Well, we'll look at that. But first I want to take a look at the youth. What do they desire? Alcohol law, negative effect. University grants a positive effect. What is the alcohol law? Minimum wage 18. I guess it's that libertarian part of me going off again. I personally think it should be 16. And it does seem like the positives outweigh the negatives. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to lower the drinking age to 16 years old. Now let's take a look at the retired. Inheritance tax, something that affects them negatively. Property tax as well. Public libraries, is something they're quite fond of. What are our options there? Of course, we're back to the budget. Where's our budget? We need to cut. We need to either gain more income. What are our debt levels? Our expenditures are minus $49 billion a quarter. Our deficit is $21 billion. Income, $72 billion. So basically we have to make up about $20 billion, I guess. Well, $30 billion. Now, where are we going to get that? All right, before we do anything else, I figured I'd take a look at our various taxes and see what our options are there. Sales tax is at 15%, 8.4 billion quarterly. I don't really want to do anything. I don't want to raise that. 15% is pretty reasonable. I mean, in Canada, the sales tax is, it's 15%. It may be a bit lower. They lowered it a number of years ago, but I think it's around 15%. And I find that pretty reasonable. If it were any more than that, I wouldn't be particularly happy about it. So that is a no-no. I'm not raising the sales tax. Tobacco tax, already did that one. Petrol tax. Now, this is something I really don't like doing, because as much as we don't like it, and as much as many people want to move away from cars, the fact is they are the lifeblood of our civilization. Modern civilization does not exist without cars, regardless of whether they run on petrol or electricity. I'm saying petrol. I watch too much British TV, I guess. But I think raising it to something like 15% would be fairly reasonable. wonder how much. We don't have enough political capital, but if I raise it to 15%, right now it's 3.3 billion or 3.4. We'll round up. So if we move it up to 15%, that is an extra billion annually. And I think 15% is a pretty reasonable amount of money. I mean, the sales tax is 15%. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next turn so I can save up that political capital, and we will increase the petrol tax to 15%. It's probably not going to be very popular with motor. Well, actually, let me just see who all dislikes this. Motorists are not going to like it, which is unfortunate. Car usage, I would go down. Environment increase, which is good. Motorist income, well, it's going to have downsides, but sacrifices have to be made for the greater good, I suppose. Next turn. Okay, sit rep. Let's just take a look at this. Yeah, that was a long shouting. So, green protesters have staged a noisy protest at the location of a proposed landfill site on the outskirts of one of our cities. All right, I got the gist of that. So environmentalists aren't very happy about that. Budget report, more of the same. Debt raising, expenditures are more or less staying the same, and income is fluctuating around more or less the same. So yeah, we'll have to think about that. Let's just look at what else was all. Security briefing. The Human Rights Society has been criticizing government policy on the radio. Are they a particularly dangerous group? Doesn't seem like that. I wonder what they're complaining about. I mean, I thought we were pretty good on human rights, I would think. I haven't done anything to do otherwise. Well, polls are going up slightly. How have we increased? Unfortunately, we've increased a bit for youth. That's good. But right now we are going to increase our petrol tax to 15%. Wait. Wasn't it lower than this? Oh, we're on sales tax. Never mind. No, I don't want to use political capital. Okay, petrol. There. Increase this to 15%. Some people won't like it, but they're just going to... Oh, I can't. All right, I don't like it, but we are going to decrease the state health services slightly. Not very much, but just enough to hopefully get doctors back to work, because we're having a lot of problems with, obesity and asthma. So I don't like it, but needs must. So hopefully this might clear itself up. Seems like it's almost at the stop trigger, so next turn, and that will also save us some money. Now, expenditures, what else we have? We've decreased that. Debt interest, obviously we can't do anything about that. State pensions. Now, I would never lower it much, but we are at 11, let's round it up, 12 billion quarterly. If we got it to, thing is, the retired, these are people who have worked hard their whole lives, and they aren't expected to live off much in their old age, and I am trying to increase my popularity with the retired. However, unfortunately, I think sacrifices will have to be made. I can't do anything this turn because it costs 26 political capital, which I do not have. How much do I have anyways? 1. Okay, I can't do anything with that, so on to the next. Let's take a quick look at my cabinet first. Law and order. You are not very loyal. Unsurprisingly, given your political leanings, but I don't think I'm going to do anything with that for now. Although, I will take a look at these. So, one thing we might replace law and order. What are other choices? Who's interested in law and order? You are. Maya Tremblay. Trade union, socialists, loyalty, experience very low. That's not ideal. Law and order. Who is looking for law and order? Jada Levoin. Tax public services. Oh no. Yeah, law and order. Conservative farmers, not very high experience. I do want someone who has some decent experience. Well, I don't think I'm going to touch that for now. Although having that one person so low really decreases my political capital for each turn. Now, the parties. That's the settings. Oh, these are achievements. I haven't played this in quite some time. Oh, right. We have policy ideas. Taxes. Well, first of all, let's go to the next turn so we can actually maybe do something about that. All right, into policy ideas. Let's just look at the different taxes and see if there's anything that might be reasonable. Now, I really don't mind. Personally, I don't mind paying taxes at all, really. You know, my motto when it comes to that regard is a consumerist motto that I sort of borrow for that is you get what you pay for. In other words, you get the country that you pay for. Now, of course, ridiculous taxes, overboard, or taxing the wrong segments of on the socio-economic ladder, not a great idea. But overall, I am more than happy to pay taxes, whether it's sales tax, income tax, whatever. But let's look at the various options we have available. School tax credit, enterprise investment scheme, recreational drugs tax. You know, people aren't going to like it, but we do have weed legalized, and I think it's reasonable to have. I mean, we have taxes on alcohol and cigarettes. Not that I'm comparing cigarettes to weed, obviously. One is far safer than the other. But I think what we're going to do is implement this. May make people unhappy, but I don't want to. I wish it gave me a percentage. 100. It's not a huge amount of money, though, but we're going to start out on the top end of the low end. Alright, so I think we're going to leave it there. So sort of a recap of what our goals have been. One, we've been trying to target the retired and youth and trade unions for popular support in the polls. Also been dealing with the problem of the doctors' strike and the rail subsidies strike, with also trying to get the deficit under control. Now, we've decreased funding very slightly to the state health services to help sort of ease the pressure on the doctor strike. Except is the start or the stop the trigger that ends it? Well, I'll worry about that next time. Other problem with the rail subsidies that I did a little bit to help. And of course, a new problem that's popped up is the obesity epidemic. So I suppose our poll ratings are doing not too badly. It's been on a steady rise except for this little dip right here. So I guess we'll have to see what happens next time in Democracy 3. So until then, thank you guys for watching. Please like if you like, or dislike if you don't like, and subscribe. Well, I suppose you wouldn't be subscribing if you disliked it. So if you disliked it, I guess don't subscribe. But until next time, have a good one.